Again, not testifying is Matt Simpson of ACLU, Texas, and then calling up three witnesses: Sarah Matz, David Edmondson, and CJ Grisham. Sarah Matz, you can go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Matz. I am here representing the Computing Technology Industry Association, and I'm here to testify against the bill. On behalf of CompTIA and the 2,000 member companies we represent, we are here opposing the bill. Companies review millions of pieces of content every week, and while they don't and can't always get it right, they work to ensure that there is no bias in content decisions and take meaningful steps to improve their process. And let's be clear about the types of content that companies' content policies allow them to remove. Activities themselves, calls for violence against people, activities by criminal organizations, even when the online activities themselves aren't criminal, promoting or publicizing crimes, exploitation of children, bullying, harassment, gory or graphic content, pornography or sexually explicit content, spam, and fraudulent schemes. And that's just to name a few things. We're concerned that this bill would create unintentionally an onslaught of frivolous lawsuits that the bill would create, and this doesn't seem like the Texas thing to do. It's also extremely vaguely drafted. Some of the definite terms within the bill are not clearly defined, such as neutral viewpoints, shadow ban, or deplatform or demonetize. And without having these terms defined in law, we're concerned that that will just bring additional lawsuits within the state of Texas. The bill also violates federal laws. We believe it's a violation of 47 U.S.C. Section 230, which is a federal law that provides safe harbor for companies that remove objectionable content. And so not only would the federal law allow companies to subjectively and not objectively determine what is questionable, but it also is neither workable nor constitutional for courts to determine what is objectively considered to be obscene, lewd, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. And that's my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. You might just check to see if she's seen the company's, you can follow up.
And I think you have some research, sounds like you were talking about something we substitute as well as the file. Do you know the newer version?
Yes, I have taken a look at the committee substitute, and the concern with the conflict in law is the term objectionable, which is also in the committee substitute, and that's what's different than what's in federal statute.
Thanks for your testimony. You mentioned a couple of things, and I couldn't write it all down, but you talked about the types of content that's familiar. You're talking about promoting violence or organizations that might be objectionable, even if the post itself is from an organization that's tied to bad stuff, criminal stuff, exploiting. So I didn't get the whole list, but which one of those would apply to this act? It says the Texas Senate Republicans, and I want to repeat what happened in New York, Virginia, which is passed SB 23. Texas Moral Identity Protection Act is the most important. All the Republican female senators are joint authors of this bill. The list those Republican female senators. So there's a couple core sentences that quote, any baby born in Texas is going to be respected as a human being. Where Washington, D.C. has been unclear, we're going to be very clear. Texas, and not for life, unquote. Sheriff, if you care about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Now, I didn't get the whole list, but which one of those lists, which item on the list or items applies to this act?
Well, sir, I don't work for Facebook, and so I don't know the decision behind that particular ad. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
Did it sound to you like any of those objectionable reasons would apply to this ad? I'm asking, forget about Facebook, I'm asking you, as a representative of the industry, and the longer list you give us, which all sounds pretty bad, which one of those are going to apply to this ad?
Again, I don't know the specifics of why they flagged that ad.
Forget about Facebook. Would you flag this ad based on the criteria you've given us today?
If I had a deeper understanding of all of Facebook's policy, then I would be able to answer that question.
So there may be other policies in addition to the laundry list you gave us of objectionable stuff.
I don't know the answer to that because I'm not an expert on the internal policies of their content decisions.
Okay. So Facebook aside, one more time. Anything in the laundry list that applies to this ad as you see it, as you read it?
Again, I would have to defer to whatever the policy is. Without having an understanding of why that ad was tagged, I can't answer it.
So it sounds like there's more to it than just the stuff you read to us, doesn't it?
Not in my opinion, no.
There's not anything more than those objectionable things you read to us?
I can't answer a question on why Facebook tagged
I didn't ask you that. I'm asking what you think as your organization's representative about this ad as it applies to the criteria you've given us. What's the problem? Forget about Facebook. Forget about Facebook.
Again, I would have to have a deeper understanding of what the content policy is for any company, not just Facebook, but any company. And I don't know why that was tagged, but as I stated in the very beginning, we don't always get it right, and we can't. That's what happens when you have human beings that operate, and our concern is just the number of lawsuits that this could create because of the vaguely defined, or the vague terms within the bill that aren't defined, and we're concerned that it would create an onslaught of frivolous lawsuits within the state.
Thanks for your testimony. Jim.
Any other questions? All right, call the next witness, David Edmondson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is David Edmondson, and I am TechNet's Executive Director for Texas and the Southeast. I am here in opposition to the committee substitute to Senate Bill 2373 because it puts the burden on Texas courts of policing social media. I won't echo what Sarah mentioned in running through the onslaught of the lists about things that social media platforms currently do have in their content policies, but Texas should encourage companies to have these policies because I think it's to everyone's benefit that that type of information doesn't end up on social media. But instead it creates an incentive for them to not prohibit any type of objectionable material for fear of opening themselves up to potential lawsuits. And also to go a little bit further on what Sarah mentioned about the safe harbor provision, referring to Section 230. So it is true that Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act is a federal law that provides safe harbor for companies that remove objectionable content. And it gives them broad leeway for the companies to subjectively determine what is objectionable. And the bill and the committee substitute specifically, it does not align with federal law because on page 2, line 15, it adds the word objectively in a way that is completely contrary to the purpose of the federal law. So as a result, this puts the courts in the position of having to determine what is objectively considered to be obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, or otherwise objectionable. And so with the exception of obscenity, these are all constitutionally protected forms of speech that courts do not have tests or guidelines to be able to apply on not even how to delineate these types of speech, much less determine what is an objective standard for each of them. And then finally, social media platform is not defined, which we have fear could pull in just comments on e-commerce websites, could pull in comments on news websites, message boards. So, I'm getting buzzed.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? I have a couple of questions. I mean, I'm not going to, maybe it goes to Senator Hughes. Looking at the bill, you're not creating any cause of action in this, other than the public suit under the deceptive trade practices, correct?
So that's exactly right. There's a file bill providing private cause of action. The committee substitute is only allows actions brought by the Attorney General.
Okay, under DTP.
Okay. DTP, that's right. Yes, ma'am. It only wrote by the AG, not wrote by the individuals, and it's civil, not criminal. That's right.
Right, but it does not create a private cause of action. Sure, that's all clear on that. I just want to make sure, because I don't think that was what you talked about.
That's exactly.
So just want to make
I don't think there's a dispute about that. I don't think I hope they don't agree with that. They actually clarify first, but there's no private cause of action.
Okay. Any questions on that? Thank you. Well, the last person we have a card for is CJ Christian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Hughes, for this bill. I come to you as a repeat offender in the social media wars on speech, as well as a regular personalized cell holder in Facebook jail. So I'm currently serving my third concurrent 30-day sentence in Facebook for having the audacity to express an opinion on somebody who was harassing my wife. So I shared a screenshot of someone calling my wife words I prefer not to say here on the microphone, and by sharing that screenshot, I got banned, because I'm always getting banned for my conservative speech. And not only that, but our Open Carry Texas, we have dozens of local chapters all around the state of Open Carry Texas. However, Facebook has been systematically shutting down our groups. We've lost almost 16, I almost said almost 16. We've lost 16 Facebook groups that have been shut down arbitrarily by Facebook that have not violated any terms of service, but we are a gun rights platform. And when we express opinions that might be somewhat controversial, because they are on the conservative side, I can only guess, because Facebook doesn't tell us why we're getting banned. I know what's posted because we moderate everything, and we moderate everything heavily. We don't allow hate speech, whatever that means. That's a myth. I don't even think hate speech should be in this bill because it's false. Hate speech is a myth, I think, in my opinion. But we don't say anything violent. We don't encourage violence, none of those things. And yet myself and our organization is routinely targeted for pushing gun rights. I am personally routinely targeted for my views on, for example, the Houston Library reading by transgender time. Apparently I'm not allowed to express disagreement with transgender people. If I disagree with the homosexual lobby, I'm banned. So that's why I support this bill.
Thank you. Any questions on this person? All right, thank you very much for this panel. We appreciate your input. Is there anyone else who wants to anyone else want to testify or against Committee 72373? We'll close public testimony. Sir, you want to close or ask?
Twitter page for the movie Unplanned. It had 50,000 followers on Twitter. And then the weekend when it was over, that page just disappeared from Twitter. When the number of people rejected it was put back up without 50,000 followers. People said they tracked it and they couldn't. And Twitter later said, after the fact, after the damage is done, after the weekend is over.
Shut up, Shelley. Just go away.
The guy said that page says he has never had a Twitter page canceled. Well, the point is, again, just like today, we're given these horrible set of reasons for blocking speech, violence, crimes.
You're an idiot, Shelley. It's true.
Let me just say this respectfully. It is telling that there's no idea for Facebook. Again, this one's all good. Nobody here gets to what they did, what they're not doing. Let's open this up. Let's figure the keyhole. They're hiding behind these algorithms. Let's see who's programming. Let's see what they really say. That's what this bill's about. You say you're open, you don't discriminate based on content. Let's look into it. That's what this bill is about.
Senator Burko.
I just wanted Senator Hughes to know that from personal experience, I should be dead a whole lot more negative experience than a Facebook post.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay, thank you. All right, then, Senator Hughes moves that the committee substitute to Senate Bill 2373.
Hey, Pike Speak, I read it.
Moves that we adopt the committee substitute is adopted without objection. Senator Hughes moves that the committee substitute.
Okay, let me go out here and I'll talk about this. Shelley, it sounds like you're the one that's triggered. You're the one that keeps coming onto my videos, and you're so obsessed with one thing. You notice that I don't talk about people. I talked about them once, and I'm doing what every freedom-loving American should do, which is let the legal process work its way through. But because you're such a sycophantic moron, you want to convict people before a court does. I happen to believe in due process. You don't. That's the difference between us. So just go away and stop being triggered. Stop being a little, thug walking around trying to, somehow shame me for believing in due process. It's not going to work. All right? There you go. You're free to stay and look like an idiot all you want. All right. So here's what 2373 does. 2373, I did talk to the bill author, and I'm going to talk to him again about some of the language in the bill. I think that it's a good thing in the sense that if you are censored for political or religious speech on social media, that there's a cause of action for the Attorney General to be able to file a cause of action. The problems that I see with the bill are, for example, that it talks about hate speech, and hate speech is a myth that doesn't exist. The problem is, what is hate speech? I mean, hate speech these days is pretty much you disagree with me, therefore it's hate speech. If you believe in a certain thing that I disagree with, that's hate speech. So we're working on getting rid of that language, but the idea that you can be banned from what is essentially becoming a public utility, which are these giant social media platforms. I used to believe that these social media platforms are private property, therefore they can restrict whatever they want. The problem is they have become what is essentially a public utility. They are so large, and you can't go and get your message out anywhere else because these other platforms get bought out by these big techs, and the next thing you know, you're back on, even if you're on a different URL, you're still on that same social media platform because now they own it. And so my thoughts on this are that we should start treating these social media companies as public utilities, because look, try to be a business and not have a Facebook or Twitter profile and presence. It's nearly impossible to get your message out. Try to be a nonprofit and get your message out and coordinate without social media, without Facebook, Twitter, YouTube even. And so my opinion has sort of shifted on this issue because of the way that they have first of all, forced out all the other competition. Yeah, there's Gab, there's MeWe, and things like that, but until those things get large enough, there really isn't much of an option. They've kind of got a monopoly on social media. So I have some concerns about some of the language in there. For example, hate speech. I do believe that hate speech is a myth. I don't think it exists. I think that's just one way to politically censor people. And quite frankly, if I want my speech to be hateful, I should have a right to have hateful speech. It's just that simple. I should have a right to express my opinion about whether or not I believe a certain thing is right or a certain person is right, or whether I believe that, heck, and this is going to sound controversial, but I mean, even racists have a right to spread their ignorant hate of people that don't look like them. Okay, that all we've got to do is make sure that we're not associating with them. That's how we overcome hate, not by censoring their speech, but by allowing them to speak so that we can expose the ignorance of those opinions. I mean, it's not hard to see. You look right here, and you've got people like Shelley Jones and Leonard Shelby. Can you imagine if I censored their idiotic statements? I mean, I want people to see what morons they are. I want them to be able to express their idiocy so that I have something to laugh at later. It makes me laugh. So I think people should be able to speak however they want. And then it's up to us to use our freedom of association on whether or not we're going to associate with racists and bigots and people who are too stupid to understand what due process is, like Shelley, or people who are just too stupid to form coherent sentences about anything, like Leonard. So that's just the way free speech works. Okay, with freedom comes risk, And sometimes that risk means being offended, but here's a little tidbit for you. It is impossible for me to offend you. Impossible. You have to choose to be offended. And if you choose to be offended, then that's your problem, not mine. I can do everything in my power to offend you, and it's impossible for me to do so unless you allow yourself to be offended. That's why I never get offended by idiots. That's why I can take criticism pretty simply. I just ignore it or make fun of them. All right, guys, take care. We do have some gun bills coming up a little bit later today. I'm going to head down to the House. There was another Senate bill today that I just testified at, but I didn't get here in time to actually speak in favor of it. It's Senate Bill 1691, and what it does is if you're given a protective order because your life is in danger, especially for like domestic violence or something like that, if you have a protective order or there are threats against you that are legitimate threats, then you can file for an expedited license to carry a handgun, and they have to give you an expedited license to carry. So we first of all, we believe that we shouldn't have to worry about an expedited process for getting a license, because guess what's even faster than an expedited process to get a license? No license. So constitutional carry would fix that for everybody, especially those people who are whose lives are in danger. However, I will testify that as long as we need a license, that people whose lives are in danger, who have threats against them, should be able to apply for and receive an expedited license to carry. That will definitely help a lot of women out there who are scared that their spouse, their former spouse, their boyfriend, their former boyfriend, or a stalker, or someone like Leonard is going to come and try and sneak into their window and do something wrong. So that's what we testified on today. There's another bill, it's HB 1445, that I'll be testifying on in a little bit today. And what that does is, it started out as a good bill. When I first read this bill, it started out really good because it actually links, in Texas law right now, it is against the law to carry a firearm while intoxicated. The problem is the law does not define what intoxicated means. So House Bill 1445 actually links the term intoxicated to the definition used to convict people in court, so 0.08 blood alcohol level. So it actually links that term intoxicated. The problem is that we have with the bill, and this is one of two reasons why we're testifying against it, is, for example, let's say you get a DUI and you have a firearm in your glove compartment or in your trunk, or even somewhere else in the vehicle where it's not easily accessible. You can be charged with a felony just because you were charged with DUI and you happen to have a firearm in the vehicle. I will tell you, I always have a firearm in my vehicle. I don't drink, so I don't have to worry about that. So that's the first problem that we have with it. Just having one in a vehicle is not the same as walking around intoxicated carrying a firearm. The second thing is, it exempts, you're going to find this funny, 1445 exempts law enforcement and security officers, licensed security. It exempts them from making it a crime to carry a firearm while intoxicated. And it's on and off duty. So if you're an off-duty cop and you're drunk as hell and you're carrying a firearm, you still can't be charged with that crime. But so somehow cops are miraculously able to carry their liquor and firearms in a way that other people can't. I mean, is there some kind of training in the academy? Hey, all right, guys, it's week 2, day 3, and today we're going to learn how to carry a firearm while intoxicated and do so safely and responsibly. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So yet once again, we've created a special class of citizen because somebody is wearing a badge. And so I'm here to fight against that. And then hopefully that bill is quick and I can go home early because I've got a bike ride planned somewhere. So all right, guys, y'all take care, be safe, be free, and once we get to